Here at Kensington Oval in 1984, Australia amassed 429 in their first innings and yet lost by 10 wickets. Here again, 7 years later, Australia bowled the West Indies out for 149 on the first day and were still beaten by a massive 343 runs, with another double from Greenwich and wickets shared between their mighty fast bowling attack. They were just as proficient in the limited overs game, with only their stunning defeat by India in the 1983 World Cup final blotching their copybook after their triumphs in the first two tournaments of 1975 and 1979.
In my mind, it's certainly the best side I've ever played against. Whatever we tried, we couldn't seem to come up with an answer to your four-pronged pace attack. And just to rub salt into the wounds, you then had a batting line-up that went something along the lines of Haynes, Greenwich, Richards, Calicharan, Lloyd. There's probably three or four I'm missing out of that as well. Larry Gomes was always a real thorn in our side. It was a formidable side. Then you had Dujon coming in at 7. It was tough to beat.
I think that the 1984-85 side was an extremely strong side, strong in all departments. Opening, the middle order was superb. The bowling, the quartet of fast bowlers were the best in the world. And incidentally, all 4 or 5 fast bowlers of that time got well over 200 test wickets. So that was really a fantastic side.
I believe uneasy lies ahead that wears the crown, and the point is that the players realized too that the discipline was important, training was important, winning was important for us, for all manner of things, because we had people not only in the West Indies, we had people in Pakistan, India, Australia. We had the Australians backing us when we were playing Australia, because we were playing the type of cricket that they enjoyed. They saw a professional attitude. They saw guys who were really hungry for success.
Richards and Greenwich each amassed 11 hundreds in one-day internationals, and by the time he was finished, Desmond Haynes had a world record 17. But none was more devastating than Richards' unbeaten 189 against England at Old Trafford in 1984.
West Indies were roughly 150 for 9. Michael Holding comes to the crease, and as a captain you think, okay, fine, now if we can just get Michael out, because Viv Richards was the man at the other end, if we can just get Michael out, okay, that wraps the innings up to say 160, something like that, and we can chase that and win. And on a sort of slightly muggy day at Old Trafford, or murky day at Old Trafford, that was definitely on. Viv then gets 150 odd by farming the strike. Mikey gets 50 odd. And that's where a golden opportunity, it seemed, had gone. And you look for it and you think, now where did we go wrong there? What happened?
The basis of such unrivaled supremacy was the quality of the players, fired by a strong sense of unity and commitment, developed under the astute and understanding leadership of Lloyd, and subsequently maintained under the dynamic and assertive Richards. Of those involved at the zenith of the wonder years, between 1983 and 1990, 5, Richards, Greenwich, Lloyd, Desmond Haynes, and Richie Richardson, were all to aggregate over 5,000 test runs and average better than 42 in innings. 3 of the fast bowlers, Malcolm Marshall, Courtney Walsh and Curtly Ambrose, would go on to take more than 300 wickets each, and 3 others, Roberts, Holding and Garner, more than 200, and Geoffrey Dujon would be one of the finest wicketkeeper batsmen the game has known. It was an awesome combination and an awesome record, achieved not only against opposition on the field, but in the boardroom as well. For the International Cricket Council introduced legislation designed to diminish the effectiveness of fast bowling by limiting bouncers and penalising slow over rates. It was unrealistic to expect such supremacy to last forever, although a whole generation of West Indians who grew up through these heady times had no reason to doubt that it would. In 1991, the gas tank became severely depleted, with the simultaneous exit from Test cricket of Richards, Greenwich, Marshall and Dujon. Eventually, and inevitably, the rest of the cricketing world would catch up, and some even go past as the West Indies found themselves back to where they had been in 1973, with all the attendant problems of insularity and public despondency. After Richie Richardson succeeded Viv Richards as captain in 1991, there were successive victories over South Africa, Australia, Pakistan and England. Most featured the bowling of Walt and Ambrose, who would remain to spearhead the attack, and the breathtakingly brilliant batting of Brian Lara, who had emerged as a player of the same extraordinary talent as Headley, the W's and Sobers before him. In the final test at the Antigua Recreation Ground in 1994, Lara bestrode the world, amassing Test cricket's highest ever score of 375, eclipsing the standard set 36 years earlier by that other West Indian left-handed master, Sobers. Soon, Lara was claiming the overall first-class record for himself as well, with an incredible 501 not out for Warwickshire against Durham at Birmingham. In 6 short weeks, Lara had been transformed into the world's most famous cricketer, and certainly its most feted and honoured. 19 years earlier, Sobers had been knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in a public ceremony in Barbados. Now Lara's native Trinidad and Tobago bestowed on him its highest honour, the Trinity Cross. It renamed a promenade in the heart of the capital Port of Spain after him and showered him with more material things such as house and land.
It was a celebration indicative of the exalted status cricket and the cricketers had always commanded in the West Indies. But it was to be a misleading prelude to another period of decline, uncertainty and controversy.
The era of invincibility came to a distressing end in 1995 with defeat by Australia before the disbelieving eyes of a West Indian public unprepared for such a setback. After all, it had been 25 years against Ian Chappell's 1973 Australians since they had been beaten on home soil, and the board and the team itself seemed unprepared as well.
I don't believe that regardless of how good you are, how strong a nation you are, you can do well forever. There's going to be a time when things don't go your way. And to be honest, I think to have maintained the success that West Indies had for 15 years was incredible. And I don't believe any other team would achieve that. And suddenly we lost the great players. And then you have some young players who came in who, they weren't really used to the sort of success that we had, and they weren't prepared to work as hard as the guys had worked before, and it put a lot of pressure on me as captain and on some of the other senior players. And I think if people would have realized that, look, we're not as good, we need to rebuild, then things would have been a bit easier.
The West Indies were dethroned after just one defeat in 17 years. It completely demoralized us as players and as a nation. And cricket in the West Indies is a metaphor that mirrors political, cultural and social change. And when we lose, it's so devastating.
A sequence of upheavals followed that brought the resignation of Richardson as captain, the dismissal of Andy Roberts as coach, the replacement of the selectors, and the installation of a new president and a self-styled new dispensation at the board.
But the disappointing results persisted. There was the indignity of defeat by the unknown part-timers of Kenya in the 1996 World Cup in India. And within just about a year, Test series defeats in Australia and Pakistan.
Not since their inaugural series in England in 1928 had the West Indies been beaten in every test, as they were in all 3 in Pakistan, 2 by an innings, the other by 10 wickets. Hanif Mohammed, the great Pakistani batsman who had played against the West Indies in the 1950s, said he was shocked and devastated to see them in this condition. He was not the only one. These events foreshadowed another change of captaincy, Brian Lara replacing the worthy Courtney Walsh in the job for which he had been groomed from his teens and which he had long since coveted. It wasn't a universally popular choice, for Lara's capricious temperament had brought him too close an acquaintance with the disciplinary committee of the West Indies board. Yet there's no gainsaying the fact that Lara had flair, self-confidence, a feel for the game, and that most vital of assets for any captain, luck. In Lara's only previous test as captain, in Walsh's absence, the West Indies had snatched an astonishing victory by bowling out India for 81, when they required a mere 120 to win.
In his first full series at the helm, he presided over a 3-1 triumph over England in the Tests and 4-1 in the one-day internationals to bring a spring back to the step and a smile as broad as his own back to West Indies cricket.
I thought that we made a mark, an indelible mark, I would think. Hopefully that all our youngsters, when they look at the footage, they can see that, and they listen to some of the people who have played in that period talking about that golden period of West Indies cricket, that they have something to be proud of, and we want to get our cricket back on track, and so that they can emulate, they can even, sort of surpass, really.
It would be unrealistic to expect again, and so soon, a return to the wonder years of Lloyd and Richards, and as yet there's no concrete evidence to support such hopes.
Yet, as CARICOM celebrates its 25th year, the coincidence of another West Indies cricket conquest over England may well be interpreted as an optimistic portent, as it was way back in 1973 at the Oval. Happy days could well be here again.
But down here, just a chink in the armor is enough to lose a friend. Some of the old generals have retired and gone, and the runs don't come as they did before. But when the two say so, don't you know the desert is gone? We've lost the battle, but yet we will win the war.
Irapali Prasana, Gigi Boy and Wadeka, Krishna Murthy and Vishnu Mankad. Them boys could well play cricket on any kind of wicket. They make the West Indies team look so bad. We was in all kind of trouble. Joey Carew pull a muscle. Clive Lloyd get about 3 run out. We was in trouble without a doubt. It was Gavaskar, the real master, just like a wall. We couldn't out Gavaskar at all, not at all. You know the West Indies couldn't out Gavaskar at all.
British court, say Packer is right, but in sport, we have grudge and spite. Tell Packer when I am sore, I ain't obeying no law. He hire some of me best men that I go victimize all of them. Cricket fans never more will see holding. Desmond Haynes, Gordon Gray, Nation Austin. We don't need Andy Roberts, Croft and Garner when we have superstar Van Holder. The selectors obey me like children. That is why they didn't pick Bona Juliet. They have fame, but they want money like me and Jerry. So they won't play again in this country. Boy. Lara, Lara. Oh, fire! We ain't going home, jump up. We ain't going home, jump up. We ain't going home, jump up. We ain't going home. Raise your baton party. Put up your baton party. Raise your baton party. Put up your baton party tonight. We ain't going home.